It's 6 p.m. on a Monday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let us begin with the headlines. As South Korea and the United States begin their annual Ulchi Freedom Guardian joint exercise, President Park Geun-hye warns of provocations from North Korea desperate to clamp down on divisions in its ranks. The residents of Seongju County have officially appealed to the government to consider a different location for the THAAD missile defense system. The Defense Ministry says it will look into the feasibility of an alternate site and respond as soon as possible. 2016 Olympic Games in Rio draw to a close. Korea fulfills its goal of a top 10 finish. The U.S. ends comfortably atop the medal rankings, while Russia, despite a partial ban on its athletes, finishes fourth. This week, Seoul and Washington begin their annual Ulchi Freedom Guardian military joint exercise. President Park Geun-hye convened the Ulchi National Security Council this morning, followed by an Ulchi cabinet meeting calling for full defense readiness and urged unity against North Korea's continued provocations. Song Ji-sun has our top story.
At a National Security Council meeting on Monday, President Park condemned North Korea's nuclear missions and its threats to attack Seoul's key facilities in the wake of Seoul and Washington's decision to deploy the THAAD missile defense system to South Korea. The president also called for unity within the South against North aggression and criticized Pyongyang for using the THAAD deployment for its own end.
우리의 사드 배치 결정은 북한의 핵과 미사일로부터 우리 국가와 국민을 지키기 위한 것인데도 적반하장으로 왜곡하면서 추가 도발의 빌미로 삼으려 하고 있습니다. 이런 북한의 공세에 우리가 휘말려서 내부 갈등과 혼란을 가중시키면 바로 북한의 의도에 말려드는 것이 될 것입니다.
President Park said North Korea will try to provoke conflict within the South as Pyongyang is experiencing its own internal struggle, as illustrated by the defections of high-ranking officials. The latest high-profile defection was by the North ambassador to UK, Tae Yong-ho. The president also cautioned that the North is capable of and claims it will carry out various types of provocations, including terror and cyber attacks.
특히 북한이 체제 유지를 위해 극단의 길을 가고 있고 핵심 엘리트층마저 이반하면서 탈북이 이어지고 있는 지금은 잠시도 방심할 수가 없는 상황입니다.
President Park also called for cooperation from the political realm on national security and asked for the nation's support in guiding North Korea to realize that it must change or take the route to self-destruction. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
As UFG, the four-day civil government drills designed to help the nation better cope with national emergencies begin, we get the usual response from North Korea. This time, Pyongyang is threatening a preemptive nuclear strike if it detects any aggression during the exercise. Kim Yeon-bin tells us more.
Seoul and Washington kicked off their annual combined Ulchi Freedom Guardian military drill. South Korea's defense ministry announced the start of the command post exercise on Monday. The drill is scheduled to run through September 2nd and involves 50,000 South Korean and 25,000 American military personnel. The United Nations Command Military Armistice Commission informed the North Korean People's Army of the exercise through the Joint Security Area at Panmunjom and emphasized that the drills are defensive in nature. The statement was in part a response to a threat by North Korea earlier the same day, saying it would launch a preemptive nuclear strike on Seoul and Washington if the allies show even the slightest sign of aggression against North Korea during the drills. The warning came in a statement by the North Korean People's Army and released through the state-run Korean Central News Agency. That statement said North Korea is ready to mount a preemptive retaliatory strike on everyone involved in the Ulchi exercise. It also cautioned that the situation on the Korean peninsula is so tense that a nuclear war may break out any moment. This year's exercise comes amid heightened tensions between the two Koreas following the defection of a senior North Korean diplomat last month. The South Korean military is on high alert for any unusual activity and says it is ready to counter any provocations from the north. Kim Yeon-bin, Arirang News.
Another high-level North Korean official stationed in Europe has reportedly abandoned his post and left to another country. If confirmed, it will be the second high-profile defection in a week after the regime's deputy ambassador to Britain fled to South Korea and is likely to deal a heavy blow to the communist state. Connie Kim reports.
A source well acquainted with North Korea said Monday that a senior North Korean based in Europe was in charge of managing money for the so-called Office 39 has abandoned his post and is in protective custody in a third country. Office 39 is a highly secretive department within the ruling Workers' Party that manages North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's personal coffers and slush funds, making it a critical organization for tracking Kim's illegal money-making operations. The North Korean official has reportedly taken a huge amount of money with him, and the source said South Korea, the U.S., and the third country are in close contact to help him seek asylum somewhere, though the official hasn't yet decided which country that'll be. All North Korean funds would be confiscated if he chose the U.S., and his security could be in doubt if he were to enter South Korea. He reportedly decided to flee after a family member in North Korea was executed because the official was unable to fulfill his duties abroad. If confirmed, it would be the second report of a high-profile defection in a week, and is sure to add weight to speculation about instability in the Kim Jong-un regime. North Korea's deputy ambassador to Britain, Tae Yong-ho, whose defection was reported last week, has reportedly said one of the reasons for his flight was his disillusionment with the Kim Jong-un regime. When Tae's case was made public, defectors in South Korea had said that Kim Jong-un would likely execute anyone related to Tae and his defection, and would certainly try to deter additional defections with his current reign of fear. Seoul's Unification Ministry had said Pyongyang was likely to carry out a provocation in retaliation for the defection, with some analysts saying that could include launching a long-range missile or another nuclear test. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
After weeks of angry demonstrations against stationing THAAD in a part in Seongju, the residents of that county formally appealed for the government to consider another location to deploy the battery within the county. According to our Oh Soo-young, the Defense Ministry promised to respond swiftly.
The Defense Ministry said Monday that it will consider an alternate location to deploy the THAAD battery, following an official request filed by Seongju residents.
The ministry will evaluate the alternate site suggested within Seongju County as soon as possible, closely cooperating with the county and consulting the 6 standards of deployment feasibility.
Following weeks of strong opposition against installing the battery in their backyard, community representatives reached a decision on Sunday to agree to another place for deployment within the county, officially appealing on Monday for a site that's anywhere but the original Songsan-ni region, where a Korean air defense base is currently operating. The Defense Ministry says that it will discuss the possible location with the county before beginning the evaluation process. The new location is widely speculated to be Lotte Skyhill Country Club, some 18 kilometers north of the Seongju County office and far from populated areas. It stands 680 meters above sea level, higher than the original site's altitude of 383 meters. As it's already equipped with an entry ramp and infrastructure, a large-scale construction wouldn't be needed to install the battery's radar and launching pad, as well as station forces. Defense Minister Han Min-go reported to the National Assembly on Monday afternoon, briefing leaders of the 3 main political parties on the status quo and mentioning the country club while discussing alternate locations. He said there'd be careful consideration of the region's situation and that the ministry maintains its goal of installing the battery by the end of 2017. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
The foreign ministers of South Korea, Japan, and China are expected to meet in Tokyo on Tuesday and Wednesday. According to Japan's foreign ministry, trilateral cooperation, regional and global issues will be discussed, including North Korea's nuclear and missile provocations. The agenda for the main meeting or sideline bilaterals could also include the territorial dispute between Japan and China over a group of islands in the East China Sea, as well as the deployment of the U.S. missile defense system, known as THAAD, to South Korea, which China opposes. This week's meeting will be the 8th of its kind, following last year's ministerial gathering in Seoul. South Korean lawmakers are locking horns again over the government's multi-billion-dollar supplementary budget plan that was slated to be put up for a vote today. Park Ji-won has the latest from the National Assembly.
The ruling Saenuri Party urged the opposition parties to abide by an earlier agreement and approve the supplementary budget plan worth $9.7 billion to revive the economy.
As the floor leader of the ruling party, I am so sorry that we failed to pass the budget. All the responsibility for the failure lies with the opposition bloc, which broke the previous agreement.
Earlier in the month, the three main political parties agreed to pass the budget bill first and then hold two parliamentary hearings on the nation's fiscal policy. But they clashed over who to summon to the hearings, and the parliament fell into a deadlock. The opposition parties say they cannot approve the budget plan unless the Saenuri party agrees to summon key economic policymakers as witnesses at the hearings. The list includes former Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan, current Senior Presidential Secretary for Policy Coordination An Jong-bum, and Hong Ki-taek, the former chairman of the state-run Korea Development Bank. Last October, they allegedly held a secret meeting at the presidential office and decided to spend some $3.8 billion in state funds to prop up one of the country's largest shipbuilders, the already ailing Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering. The Saenuri party said it cannot agree to the witness list, while the main opposition Minju Party of Korea accused the ruling party of protecting its own, which it said will only result in a failure of governance.
It's completely lamentable to see the ruling party, which is senselessly unyielding and only protecting their own people. To resolve this deadlock, the president needs to open her mind and the ruling party needs to show they're willing to negotiate.
As the negotiations between the deputy floor leaders of the three main political parties continue, the minor opposition People's Party urged the two to exercise some degree of flexibility in their discussions. It also proposed summoning relevant economic policymakers to the upcoming hearings, but not all three of the officials in question. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Moving on to other stories now. Amid sluggish growth worldwide, global trade has fallen into levels not seen since 2010. The decline marks a second consecutive fall, a trend not seen even during the global financial crisis. Our Kim Min-ji looks into the worrisome digits.
Global trade has sunk to its lowest level in 6 years. According to the World Trade Organization, the total amount of trade among 71 major economies in the first half of this year came to over $14.4 trillion, down 5.4% from a year ago. After peaking in 2014, trade in the first half has fallen for the second straight year, an unprecedented trend not even seen during the height of the global financial crisis. During the first 6 months of this year, roughly 3/4 of the 71 countries analyzed saw their exports decline. China's outbound shipments dipped nearly 8% in the first half, weighing down trade from other Asian countries. Among them, Indonesia saw the biggest decline, followed by Malaysia and Singapore. Korea saw its exports fall nearly 10% during the same period. Faltering commodity prices also pummeled trade out of oil-exporting nations, with Russia's outbound shipments falling almost 30% and Norway sliding 22.5%.
The economic situation is not good. Although the difficulties are not visible like they were during past financial crises, the world economy has kept a low growth rate, there's a global supply glut, and intensified competition is causing unit prices to drop. We're in a stage of new normal, where the global trade structure is also changing.
For the second half of the year, there are both positive and negative factors that lie ahead.
While analysts say oil prices will unlikely dip further if not pick up, and major economies are showing signs of recovery, an improvement in global trade will depend heavily on how the economic situation plays out in China, the world's largest exporter. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The 2016 Olympics drew to a close with a fantastic ceremony that didn't hold anything back. But before that grand finale, the heat of the competition and the thrill of the games were on full display right up to the very last minute. For one last time, our Yoon Shin has the highlights and the results from Rio.
On the final day of the 2016 Summer Olympics, proud athletes enter the Maracana Stadium in Rio one last time to bid farewell to the sporting event. Sunday's closing ceremony gave the global audience a festive event featuring the big samba floats the city's carnival is known for, as well as performances by Brazilian musicians. Winning most medals, the U.S. concluded their stay in Rio in first place. And beating China by 1 gold, Great Britain claimed second. Also, despite the long list of banned athletes due to the doping scandal, Russia, especially excelling in fencing and wrestling, finished 4th. But earlier in the day, the thrill of the games was kept in the city until the very last minute. In Sunday's men's basketball final, the U.S. sealed its 3rd straight golden victory, beating Serbia 96-66. The team's star player, Kevin Durant, scoring 30 points alone, pushed his team way ahead of the Serbians by halftime. With the U.S. women's basketball team also dominating Spain 101-72 on Saturday to claim their 6th gold, the country has solidified its reputation as the best basketball nation. Another anticipated event on the final day was the marathon, in which another double gold was achieved by a single nation. Following the golden finish in the women's event on August 14th, Kenya's Eliud Kipchoge won gold in the men's marathon, finishing the race in 2 hours, 8 minutes and 44 seconds. And although Team Korea's participation on the last day wasn't significant, finishing 8th in the medal standings with 9 gold, 3 silver, and 9 bronze medals, the nation had a sweet moment of closure in Rio. Sweeping all 4 golds from the men's and women's individual and team events, Korea's most memorable victorious moments were in archery. Korea also won 5 medals in taekwondo, including 2 golds from the women's events. And with the last gold in women's golf from Park In-bi, although high gold medal hopes from certain events didn't turn out as planned, Korea was still able to achieve its goal of finishing in the top 10 of the medal rankings. 이윤신, Arirang News.
That concludes our newscast for this hour. As always, thank you for watching.